once again, if y'all want to find a spot in the shade over here, I'll tell you a little story about the fort.
If you're lining up against the wall.
That's all powdered
slaughter
up.
Those already live up to the namesake here.
All right, y'all, welcome again to Fort McCants. Once again, my name is Ranger Steve. Now, I have four stories about the fort, about the area spanning 350 years of our history here. Now, I'm going to tell you all at least one of those stories. I can tell you all four if you want, but that means we're not going upstairs today. Now, I'm guessing John probably already told you most of the stories 1 and 2, but we'll see what one y'all want to hear. So, story number 1 goes way on back to the 1500s, how this area got its name. John probably already told you about that. Story number 2 is why did because stories 2 and 3 are from the 1700s. Story number 2, John probably already told you this one too, why the Spanish built this fort here. Story number 3, which he doesn't often get to, is how did they build the fort here? And the story number 4 is from the early 1900s, how the War Department and the National Park Service worked together to create this national monument fort. So, show of hands, we'll see which ones John haven't told you and what other ones you want to hear. Okay, who wants to know about how this area got its name, Matanzas? That's usually what John says. How about why did the Spanish build this fort here? That's what I thought, he told you both those. Okay, how about how did they build the fort here? Did he tell you about that one? Nope. Okay, we're on that one so far. Taking lead. How about the War Department and the National Park Service working together to create this national monument? Looks like I'm probably going to tell you all how the Spanish built this fort here. If you want to hear about any of the other stories or want to hear more about 1 and 2, go up there, give me a yell. Now, how many of y'all have been to the beach? How many of y'all have been out to the beach? Okay, how many of y'all built sandcastle out on the beach? How long did it last?
Not long.
Okay, the Spanish plan on building this big, heavy sandcastle on the beach of the river. They need it to last for decades, if not centuries. So it's going to take a little bit of thought, a little bit of planning on figuring out how to build this fort up here so it lasts. But before we talk about building it up, we're going to talk about knocking it down. We're going to talk about cannons, cannonballs, and forts. Now, generally, when you fire a cannon into the wall of a fort, what you're doing, you're running up to the wall with a big heavy sledgehammer. And you're just banging away on that wall of the fort with that sledgehammer. You're banging on it, cracking the rock, banging on enough, cracking enough, the whole wall comes tumbling down. That's generally what cannonballs do. Now, normally when you build a fort, you're going to make it out of a really heavy, dense stone, like a granite, something like that. Now, when you fire a cannonball into a granite wall, that cannonball smacks in the wall. And all the energy of the impact radiates outwards, finding faults in the rock. Cracking that rock, hit it enough, crack it enough, the whole wall comes tumbling down. Now, coquina is a little different than granite. Y'all remember, what's coquina made of? Y'all remember?
Shells.
Shells, exactly. Little millions of little dead seashells. Now, amongst those millions of little dead seashells, there are millions of little air pockets. So when you fire a cannonball into a coquina wall, that cannonball smacks in the wall. And all the energy of impact, instead of radiating outwards, goes straight into the wall, starts to compress those air pockets. The cannonball actually sinks straight into this wall about 18 inches. It doesn't damage any of the surrounding stone. But up there at the Castillo, when they're under attack, the soldiers go out at night, they pull the cannonballs out of the wall. Now the cannonballs are all deformed and misshapen, you're not going to reuse them, but they're going to clean the hole out, put a new block of coquina back in there, plaster back over it. In the morning, looks as though the fort has never even been hit. Wow. So that's the advantage of coquina. It's a really soft stone, it absorbs that cannonball. Disadvantage, it's a really soft stone. When you sit on it, it wears away. So that's why we ask, please don't sit on the walls. So, let's see. So, that's basically how you knock a fort down. So, fort building 101, elementary fort building. Now, to build this fort, we're going to split into 3 teams. Team number 1 is going to head on out and get the stone. They're going to go about a mile south of us, down on El Peñon, the southern inlet down here, and about a mile south between us and Marine Land, and start quarrying the stone down now. The coquina is the stone that the east coast of Florida is made out of. You dig down a few feet, and you're into coquina. In Florida, you dig down a few feet, you're also in the water. So coquina is normally wet. It's really soft when we pull it up out of the ground. They almost use woodworking tools on it. So they break big slabs of it up out of the ground, they rough it out to shape, let it sit for a while to dry out, put it on the barges, bring it back on over here. Thousands and thousands of blocks of coquina. Team number 2 is going to head on out to get oyster shells. Now, what do y'all think oyster shells are used for in fort construction? Give you a hint, it's sort of a chemistry type question. What do y'all think oyster shells are used for?
Mortar.
Mortar. Yep, when you burn oyster shells, you get lime. Lime is the basis for your plaster, your mortar, your tabby. So when you slake lime, which means you mix it up, You slake lime with water, you're going to get a slurry, which is going to become the plaster of the fort. You slake it with water and sand, you're going to get your mortar that you're putting between the blocks of coquina to hold them together. You slake it with water, sand, shells, rocks, crushed coquina. That's the tabby, their version of concrete. That's what they're going to use on the decking. Now, to get the number of oyster shells they're going to need for a project like this, they're going to head out and look for the Timucuan shell mounds. Now, the Timucuans are the folks that have been living here for centuries before the Spanish arrived. Great diet, really rich in seafood. These folks have been eating shellfish for hundreds of years, piling those shells up in big, gigantic mounds, 20, 30, 40 feet high. Now, if you head down Canaveral National Seashore, the north end of the seashore still has an existing shell mound down there. You can climb up the top of it and look at it. Now, we're not exactly sure what the Timucuans use those shell mounds for, other than just being a big shell midden garbage dump. One thought is they may have used those during storms, during hurricanes. Storm surge comes in, floods the village. The villagers move to the top of the shell mounds above the floodwater till the floodwaters recede, and they come back down and rebuild the villages. But anyways, they're digging up those shell mounds, bring the oyster shells over, burning them to get that lime. Now, team number 3 is going to head out in the woods, and they're going to start chopping down pine trees. Hundreds of pine trees, chopping them down, cut the branches, the limbs off, drag them back on over here. Now, the tallest and the straightest of those pine trees, they're going to put a point on one end of it. Then they're going to lift it up under this big derrick that they built here with a pulley on the top that has a rope going over tied to a big heavy rock. They're going to lift that pine log up, put the point on the ground, and then they are going to drop the rock on it, and drop the rock on it, and drop the rock on it, and drive it all the way down the ground. They're going to move the entire operation over 2 feet and drive another one. Move it over another 2 feet, drive another one. So we have pine pilings every 2 feet under this thing. 50 feet that way, 50 feet this way. Every 2 feet, pine pilings straight down here. On top of those pilings, they're going to lash timbers on those. More timbers on top of those. Make a grid work. We'll call grillage on top of that, checkerboard. Pack that down, full of earth, mud, rock, shells. Pack it on down solid. That's the foundation of the fort. So we've got our grillage, our pilings in place. We're going to start building the fort. They're going to start with this outer wall here. They're going to bring the coquina in, put it on top of that grillage, start building the outer wall with the mortar. Now, while they're working on the outer wall, another crew is going to take several hundred blocks of coquina into the very center of the fort. And they're going to start making this big, giant jar right in this very center of the fort. 8 feet in diameter, 13 feet high. Now, when that jar gets up to be 13 feet high, a couple of guys are going to drop inside of it, and they're going to switch from mortar to plaster. Now, over there, John may have mentioned how we asked, please no food or drink over here, except for water, because if you spill a Coke here, it's going to soak in the walls. They're going to plaster the inside of that big jar. It will no longer be porous. It's going to be waterproof at that point. That's going to become our water cistern. 5,000 to 6,000 gallons of drinking water to be stored in there, and they're going to get the water from the rain. It's going to rain on top of the lookout. It's going to be collected up there, drop into a chute that's going to go down, fill that cistern up. So we've got the cistern, 13 feet high. These outer walls, 13 feet high. All the space between that, they're going to pack down with dirt. Fill it in with dirt, pack it on down solid, and put a deck on top of that. Tabby deck, the gun deck. Now, we're going to start on the tower. Start on the tower, we're going to build an arch. Coquina arch in the very center. The best place to see the arch is up in the officers' quarters upstairs. That's where we see the curve of that arch. Now, on the water side of the arch over here, in the arch itself, they're going to build a fireplace. Outside the arch, above that, the chimney going all the way to the top. Outside the arch over here, on the landward side, they're going to build a small room. That's going to go up the outside of the arch to a small opening up in the officers' quarters. That's going to become our powder magazine. Now, when you all get a brand new microwave, you take it home, cut the box open, get the owner's manual out. First 3, 4, 5 pages. Warning this, safety that, hazard that, danger. Fort Building 101. You open up Fort Building 101. Warning, safety, hazard, danger. When you build your fort, whatever you do, build your fireplace as far away from your powder magazine as you can. We love explosions. We love gunpowder blowing up, but we want it to happen when it's in the cannons. Not because it was cold one night, somebody threw a big log on the fire, all the sparks flew up the chimney, dropped the magazine, blew the top off the fort. So we have the arch in the middle, fireplace, chimney, powder magazine, outer walls, all the space outside that arch. We're going to pack with dirt again, pack it down so it's solid around that magazine. We're going to put another deck up top there. Look out, one more job. We're going to plaster the entire fort. We'll start with the lime-based plaster, bright white plaster. All the walls are going to be plastered bright white. Then we're going to start mixing some red clay in there. Make a red plaster. These cordons, these ridges here, the garnitas, the sentry box on the corner, those are going to be plastered bright red. The fort doesn't look like this. The fort looks like the flag you're going to see flying above it. Bright white, bright red. The reason you're sailing offshore, you look ashore and you see a bright white, bright red structure, this is Spain. If you're Spanish, this is a safe harbor. You're welcome to come in under the protection of the guns. You're not Spanish, you have no business over here. You need to keep moving on. So that is Fort Building 101. Now we're going to head on over towards the stairs. Before we go up, though, I'm going to give you a couple